All right. Hello, guys. Welcome back to another week, another episode of Unlicensed. If this is your first time tuning in, my name is Jill, and I am the host of Unlicensed. And if you do not know what the heck this podcast is about, this is where real women write anonymously about anything that they need each week. If that's about relationships, career, professionalism, if you want to know more about spiritualism, manifestation, perhaps, you know what we're talking about today, then welcome. And you guys write in, and I will have a different female guest join us each week. Anyone from relationship coaches, therapists, friends, family, and social media influencers to help offer you advice only from women. Guys, as you know, we have these special guests each week joining us, and I'm so excited for today's episode. We have a very dear friend of mine joining us today. Welcome, Imani-Grace King. She is an actress, director, producer, writer, one of my favorite humans in the entire world. We met over 10 years ago now, which is so crazy.
Yeah.
Insane. I'm so excited to have you here today.
It's because we're so excited.
It's because we're so pumped. You guys might have remembered, Monty was on my podcast years ago, almost 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm so excited to catch up and have the audience really just see what you've been up to. But welcome, girl. I'm excited to have you here today. You got me tripping over my words more than normal. Damn.
I was beaming at you, trying to hold in my tears with my pride. Oh my gosh. Thank you for having me. This is amazing. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited you're here. And like I mentioned, you were here a couple years ago. We did a whole episode about career and not staying stagnant in your job, getting to that career and that dream job that you want as well. Yeah. So let's talk about where you're at in life now. That's 2 years. I know a lot can happen in 2 years. At that point, you were writing, working on some short films, living in Greenville, traveling to LA. What's been different? What's been the same? Talk to us a little bit about how life is, girl, in general.
Yeah. Oh, good question. What was, because I feel like at that last podcast, I was like, go for it. Quit. Dream big.
Yes.
And now I'm like, oh, it's so beautiful and worth it, but it is a journey, and you have to be really open and curious. I don't even know. I think at the time I was wrapping on my very first short film at the time, and since then I've done 3 or 4 since then. One of them being a documentary, and producing more scripts too, I think, and having more conversations about selling scripts, which was exciting. Since then, and I think I was still working in I was already working at Los Angeles in Los Angeles back then. So still working in Los Angeles, and finding that weirdly enough, I like to produce and make art in South Carolina on the East Coast than doing it in LA on the West Coast, which was big, because I used to think I had this idea that in order to get your dreams, you have to go to LA or New York, or you have to go. And if you don't, then it won't work out. And then I saw that was a limiting belief, because I ended up going there and wanting to do it, but then feeling so much more excited and aligned when I did it here. And that's probably because I grew up in South Carolina. And so I have a lot of wonderful community people who just were like, yeah, you can have my restaurant, or you can use this, and I'm going to give you this, and we'll get meet there. And so aligned. Meanwhile, in LA, I felt like it was a little more of, I guess because also a lot of people are doing it in LA, maybe. So it felt, maybe it was probably just me wanting to be individual.
I'm going to be the only one in Greenville doing this shit,
wanting attention. Yeah. And I was like, oh, too many people doing this here. This is not cute. It's not as cute when you're like, hey, I'm doing this. Because in LA, people are like,
yeah, me too. And my brother's cousin and his cousin and everybody.
So exactly. So when you're here in Greenville, but I don't know. I've just produced more. I continued, I guess, just continuing to build and try to make good portfolios and make as many connections as possible, true connections where you just share art together. Yeah. And stuff. So that's about it since then. Yeah.
And I love the Greenville component of it, because you're right. So many people are not doing a lot of things related to media and art and creativity. Obviously, Greenville has so much culture in a sense, but usually it's within, I feel more of the 9-to-5 workforce, marketing jobs, and even the food scene of it all. You kind of mentioned that something that really, drew you to Greenville and producing and writing and actually filming there is the sense of individuality and being the only person that's doing it. Have you always been someone, even since you were little, that's always just kind of done your own thing, gone against the status quo of what people are doing? Or has that been something that's evolved in time as you become more confident in yourself?
Great question, Jillian Newton. You're good at this.
Shut up.
I think I've always been this way. I think I've always been kind of dancing to the beat of my own drum. I think for a while you shame it for, you get like, it's the years. I don't want to get too into inner child healing, which I probably will, because I can't
talking about it all here.
I can't not put it into a conversation of inner child healing. It's horrible. But I think like you're so young and excited and rambunctious and loud and proud and all these things until a certain age. And then you stop doing that and start to try to whittle yourself into something else. And so you find that you have to try to find that again. And I think art helps you find that again in a lot of ways. And so I think I've always been this way, because it is kind of like, well, when did I start to really feel like I need to do this art form? I need to put myself out there. Yeah. And I was like, I feel like I've been doing this my whole life, really. Forever. A part of me has always wanted to do this. Yeah. So individual that loves to collaborate and have art with other people, which has been a good balance to kind of find, because it's kind of like we were just talking about it at brunch. Like, this is something that you own, and like you are you're the pilot. Yeah. But it's also like nothing without other people, and 100%. It doesn't hit the same at all without other people. So I don't know. I feel like I've been an individual and kind of doing my own thing. But now I see the balance of collaboration and sharing that art form with people, and like creating spaces so people can create like things that they love. So it's like, I feel like that's the only difference from when I was a child. Because as a child, you're just thinking of yourself and wanting to run around. But now it's like, well, let's think about myself and run around and connect with as many people as possible in this like artistic thing. Yeah. So, and also to say, I am not the only person in Greenville, South Carolina who is making films. That was
there are others.
So annoying of me again to be like, yeah, I'm the only one.
Sorry, y'all.
There's actually other people making art.
Multiple other people listening in are like, okay, Monty, we literally did a whole project together. What are you talking about?
We were in a play together. What are you talking about? So, what do you mean? I scratch that from the record. There are so many great artists in Greenville.
No, and it has been really cool to see, obviously, all of your short films and seeing your collaboration with others. What is something you've learned about yourself from working on, you said 2 years ago when we filmed, I think one at that point, now 3, which is really crazy because I know how much time and energy goes into that. Yeah. Me even helping you, I'm like, wow, she is really going into every single segment of this that you wouldn't even think about, the behind the scenes things. What have you learned about yourself as a person from working on art, and how has your art really transformed over the last couple of years? Because I feel like from your first short films, the last one that I watched, which we'll do a whole, plug on that later, is very different, but a very beautiful. And I love that you mentioned how your art doesn't even feel like self-serving for you anymore. It's like serving others in that connection. So I want to talk about what you've learned about yourself throughout that, and then how your art has just evolved as well over the last couple of years. Because I've seen a difference in it, but I don't know if that's also just because you've had more practice and bringing other people that can give you different ideas. Let's talk about that too.
Yeah. I think maybe like precision, I think, has gotten better. Like, I think at the beginning of this, I really was just like, I have all these feelings that I need to get out, and I see it in my head in a very specific way, whether it's like to music or a certain image, and I'm like, I just need to get it out. It needs to like the energy physically needs to leave my body in some way. Yeah. And so I end up making something and scrapping together whatever I could possibly do, and whoever's willing to help me. Yeah. And I create something. And I think that was the kind of energy at the beginning, like projects. Also, I didn't know what I was doing, so I was like, we
got a camera?
Literally throwing at the wall, see what sticks. I just think about how many projects failed that like actually didn't see the light of day, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So like, those were the beginning stages, and then as I move forward, like I think the last 2 projects or so was so much more precise about what I want to communicate and what I want to do. And the process flowed easier because I had more experience, but it was just so much more of maybe like more patience with myself and being like, it doesn't have to get out. It can just like, it can come out. It'll come out and it will flow out and it'll be beautiful and you'll make it. And you just make sure that you're being patient with the process and that you're being very specific and intentional with the process. Because I think that before it was like, just do anything, and then let's cut it up in the editing.
We're just trying to get engagement and go and go.
Literally, like I just want to get this out, and I want to just pat myself on the back for getting it out. For it to be quite honest, which is really important at the beginning stages when you're getting in any type of industry. You just want to like prove that you can actually like physically do it and like it's actually right. And so that was the kind of energy of the first ones, and so the other ones are just like, okay, I actually can take myself very seriously as a filmmaker now, and I need to come at it with a very grounded perspective about the process. So like not just get it out. It's more let's truly create something and make something and have this experience for everyone that's involved in it be just really intentionally awesome. Instead of just like chaotic.
I think that's important. What advice would you have for anyone, if that is a social media influencer or someone creating art that wants to put something out? Because sometimes I think it's also easy to use, you know, I want it to be perfect as an excuse not to get your content or your work out there as well. So how can you differentiate between the two of, okay, you know, I want to take my time with this. I want this to mean something to people versus, well, I have a lot of good stuff already, but I'm afraid of being judged or putting this out there. How can you tell the difference? Do you just have to trust your intuition and really know yourself in that moment to know if you're using that as an excuse to just not show the world what you've been working on versus I want to take my time and really allow this to grow into something beautiful before I share it with someone, just to put out content? Because you see it all the time. I mean, scrolling on TikTok, I see the craziest stuff that I'm like, why would anybody create this? It just seems like there was no intention behind any of the project. And maybe that's the basis of it. People's minds work so differently, but sometimes I'll just see things, if that's a short film or a podcast, and I'm like, I feel like this person's just doing this, maybe not necessarily for the right reasons in that sense. So how can you tell the difference between those two things too?
I think there's fear-based thinking, and we'll talk about this probably later when we talk about manifestation.
Oh, definitely.
There's like fear-based and then love-based thinking. Like love-based is not attached to, I think, like ego, which is like, what will people think? Is this good enough? Am I good enough? That is very, which is all feelings we have because we all have egos. And so when that's your deterrent, that is probably something that is, you're looking at externally more than you're looking internally. And then I think this is so beautiful, and this deserves attention and breath and patience, and I want to cultivate it. That's like love-based. And so anytime it's like this kind of saying, cliche or whatever, you can't rush art. It is like, just figure out why you're rushing it. Are you rushing it because you have to get it out and you want the validation? Or are you rushing it because literally that's usually the reason, like you want to get it over with or something like that, you know, or like because you're running out of time, or you think someone else is going to get the idea, or just like this lack kind of thing. And then there's like the love part, which is so beautiful, and it's I'm going to bring this out into the world, and you just have to know the energy that you have behind it, because that's the energy that's felt. Like the energy of I love this piece of art. It's very scary to put it out there, but I love this, and I'm going to put it out there.
Why am I getting emotional?
You know what I mean, though? Do you know what I mean? When it is that thing, like, this is beautiful. I'm proud of myself, and I'm proud of this, and I know it's going into the unknown, and who knows what's going to happen, but I love it. And then there is, like, the grasping. I have to get it out there. And then you end up doing that. You might put out art that you're like, later you look at, because I've had this experience. You look at it, and you're like,
why the fuck
why?
did I upload that thing?
I said, people can see this shit. People can see this. I looked at my YouTube from like 2020 when I was chaotic,
when we were all going through it because we had nothing to do. We were like, we just mentally need to get anything out here. And
I was like, look at me, I'm a crackhead in this. I'm like, mother of God, Imani-Grace King, you have never touched crack. And I just thought, I'm so edgy for this.
And I remember commenting on that.
Girl, I said,
this is next level.
I text you. I said, chill,
and Emmys were coming.
I said, Jordan's behind the camera, like, cut? Like, I don't know. At the time, that was the energy. It was like, if I don't get this out of my system, I will have to have an exorcism. So I need to get this out.
Getting it. I love that you said the lack mindset, because that's really it is a lot of the time of, you know, someone, for me, it's like, I just need to get something out there to get it out there because someone else might be uploading this very soon. But at the end of the day, you're a creative person. You're going to come up with an idea that no one else will ever think of at the end of the day too. So people need to remind that. So
true.
I think that's a perfect segue because I have some questions about this like fear versus heart mode. So we'll get into it. But guys, hopefully you loves catching up with my girl today. I know I did. We were at brunch for like an hour before this, so I already caught up with her ass, but I'm glad you guys got to catch up with her too. But guys, I'm super excited for today's episode, and Mani was the perfect guest for this because this is a topic that you've been extremely passionate about and talking about for years now. I want to say at this point, maybe 6 or 7 years. So I definitely wanted to talk about this with someone that I've been able to actually experience from having conversations with you firsthand. Today, we are talking about manifestation. We are talking about what it is. We are talking about different techniques that you can do to actually implement it into your life. We are talking about those little negative thoughts that come into your head when you want something for yourself, when you want to bring it into fruition. But, you know, that negative self-talk might get in the way and how to suppress that a bit more. So, Mani, this person wrote in and they said, there's so much I want right now. I'm really unhappy with my job, and my dream job just opened up at my favorite brand, which is literally 10 minutes from my apartment. Plus, I'm in this housing lottery that could get me free rent for a year at my place, but there are 90 other people in it too. I've heard a lot about manifesting and want to try it, but I have no clue where to start. My anxiety keeps bringing up negative thoughts like I won't get what I want, and I feel like that's a problem. Any tips on how to start manifesting? So I'm excited to talk about manifestation, what it is, what that has actually looked like for you in your life. But I first want to start off just with the topic, and I think we actually covered this a couple years ago too, about why people are just so afraid to get out of their comfort zones in the first place. You know, this person's writing in and they're saying, I have this dream job 10 minutes down from me. I had this housing lottery opportunity. And I feel like a lot of the time people don't even allow themselves to begin to look at another part of their life in that way because they're so comfortable. It's not necessarily healthy for you, but they're so comfortable in whatever that looks like in their life at that time. So if that's a romantic partner that you know you're settling for, but you don't want to start over, if that is an apartment that's got mold everywhere, but you don't want to have to actually pick up and do the move and hire movers and do all of that, that for a lot of people is a job that you're just bored or maybe treated really poorly or have workplace anxiety, but you don't want to have to go through the workplace interview process and start over as well. Why do you feel like a lot of people are so comfortable with staying within their comfort zones at that time? And can you name a time that you maybe stayed in that comfort zone for yourself, even though you knew it's time for me to move up? I got to level up a little bit. What does that look like for you?
I think to answer the first question of like why people probably stay in comfort zones is like, I like to look at manifestation, all these, because a lot of people can write it off as woo woo and all these other things, but really it is, you can see it in in a religion. It could be, or Christianity, it could be prayer. It could be like quantum mechanics. It's literally like going into different realities and bringing it into this current timeline. Like there's so many different ways you can look at it. So, but I think at the basis is like just changing your subconscious. Our subconscious is like this really beautiful, omnipresent thing in our minds that tell us how we see the world. Yeah. And I think if more people understood how powerful their mind is and how divine it is, you wouldn't question so much as much as you would. I think you would understand that you truly do have this beautiful apparatus inside you that can bring forth magic. Magic in a way, but it's just a lot of just reality and synchronicities that come to you that unfold a path for you. Yeah. And so like subconscious is also the thing that keeps you safe. You know, it's something that it's subconscious beliefs are the things our parents taught us. Every mean word that was ever said in elementary school to us, every experience, every memory, it's jammed into subconscious, and that's creating our belief systems. Yeah. And so if you were told that you weren't very smart at a young age, your belief system is that, oh, I'm not very smart. And so that's going to steer your ship. So you're not going to think you're right when you are right. Yeah. Like, why do you second guess yourself when you're doing multiple choice? Subconscious programs could probably tell you at one point your belief system was that I can't trust myself, I'm not that smart. Damn. You know what I mean? It's things like that. And then that creates literally how you govern and see the world. It's like a non-bias apparatus too. So it's not like right or wrong. It's just what you tell it. And so I think it is here to keep us safe. It's here to make sure that we stay in a comfortable place so we don't challenge it.
Yeah.
And challenging it is brutal because it's like your belief system. It's your muscle and your brain that's saying, no, but this is how it is, sweetie. So make sure that you kind of stay. Like that's the belief system that job isn't really for you though. But that's not really true when you look at looking at your subconscious, when you can just change what that belief is, and there's so many ways you can change it.
Yeah.
But in terms, that's to me is more manifesting, and to me I feel like that's a little middle ground because it doesn't get, and I mean, you know me, I can get into very spiritual realms of it because I don't think you can understand the mind and not think it's some divine power that created it. It's so beautiful when you think about what our minds are capable of. Intuition and our minds, like it's crazy. Like who's designing this? Like what? How is this happening? How am I able to do this? Like how does telepathy work? How do I like think about, how do we share the same thoughts sometimes? You know what I mean? It's just weird.
Thought transmission, because we really be on that sometimes.
You know what I mean? Like it's just crazy. One of those things where if you don't just chalk it up to what a coinky dink and you're literally like, oh, this is a divine synchronicity at which I've put into motion due to my belief system, you can like, that's amazing. I don't know. I find it just like mind blowing, and I could like talk about it all day. So allow me to just hone in.
This is what it's about.
But but I feel like it keeps us safe because challenging everything we know is the scariest thing ever. And it takes bravery and it takes patience and it takes time. And I think manifesting is very popular right now in terms of get. Yes, so I want to get the car. I want to get the job. I want to get all these things. But really, I like to think of things when I really want something. Like I used to really want an Oscar.
It will come one day though.
I used to. I don't care anymore. I used to really want one, and I'm like, I'm manifesting an Oscar. And I'm like, as you mature, you think, why do you want something? Why do you want it? And then when you think, why do I want it? It says more about who you are. I wanted an Oscar to validate that I should stay in this space and that I'm worthy. And that came from a wound that I had of not feeling worthy. Yeah. So it like the material thing was an Oscar to prove to anyone who's hurt me, to anyone who's not believed in me, that I'm worthy. And that's not bad at all. And it brought me to where I am. So I'm glad I had it. But if you look at it deeper, I was like, oh, that's because I don't feel worthy. Because if I felt worthy, Oscar or not, I don't got no Oscar, but I know I'm worthy. And it wouldn't matter if I got an Oscar or not. And so I think to like wrap it around back to the prompt and what she asked is, or the person asked is, not manifesting, and this is kind of a common thing that people say, but not manifesting a thing, but manifesting who you're supposed to be. Who God or source energy or who you and your intuitive thing intended you to truly be. Yeah. That is manifesting. And that, when you think about it that way, where I'm trying to manifest this different version of myself that has all these things, that's not, because you'll get the job, but if you don't like yourself, the job won't matter. You'll lose the job, or you will find that you're not happy in the job again. And you'll say, but dang, I really wanted this. But if your core belief system hasn't changed, then you'll get things. You can get things. I've manifested things. And I was like, wow, I do not want this. I do not. Wow, I'm still kind of sad.
What were some of those things for you? I was going to ask you, because you brought up so many amazing points. The self-serving, which I feel like might be an issue within manifestation as well. And I'm super excited to talk about, God in the universe versus like taking things into control for yourself too. But what is something that you have manifested that you look back on and you're like, I did not need that? And was it because it was something materialistic? Is it because it was something that was so self-serving? And I feel like, especially with your art, you're trying to connect others and really kind of push out your ideas to connect people, almost serving others in that sense. I want to talk about that self-serving factor with manifestation and maybe some things that you've manifested that may have felt at the time very self-serving to yourself. And then later you're like, this doesn't actually provide me any happiness whatsoever. I got this new thing. I used it once and never use it again.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Like, I don't know how many like it's specific instances I have, but like I do have a good, like I have one instance that might be like a good example. Okay. So like I really wanted this perfume. I wanted it so badly. And I was like, I'm going to manifest this perfume. And I was like gritting, like, well, I'm going to manifest this. I'm going to manifest this.
Knuckles red.
No, literally. I was like, I can't. I am so grateful for this perfume. I'm so perfect. I just got it for free and it's going to be so easy. Yeah. Like, I really wanted it. Easily got it on a random thing.
How?
Well, okay, the story's actually kind of crazy.
I want to hear it.
I really wanted this perfume, and then like my sister's actually back here, and she can actually attest to this. I was like, I really, really, really wanted this perfume. Mm-hmm. It was Juicy Couture. I said, oh, I want this very badly.
Juicy.
Oh, I want this very badly.
Yeah.
For some reason, I really want this really. And I was like, I'm going to manifest it. Mm-hmm. I just had like read The Secret. I was like, I am going to get this. And so I kept thinking like, I'm just so grateful. I just need a new scent. I just want to feel feminine. I just want a new scent. And I kept on just like living, like get the good feelings of having it and all the things. And I did. And then all of a sudden, my sister comes home from Missouri and comes home randomly to our house in South Carolina. I go, hey, what you doing here? And she was like, oh, I just drove down, come say hey, whatever. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. And she goes, hey, do you want this bottle? I hate the smell. Juicy Couture, exactly what I wanted. I was like, what? I said it took 2 days. I'm good at this. And at the time I was like, oh, I'm gonna manifest $20,000 now immediately. But I look back onto why I wanted that so badly, because hey, guess what, did I ever finish the bottle? I don't even know if I did.
I don't think I've ever seen you pull that out.
I don't once know when have I ever have been like, do you want some of this Juicy Couture perfume? This is my scent now. No, it was like fine, I guess, in the moment, but whatever. But what I realized looking back, I was like, oh, at the time I was going through, I think I was like maybe going through like a breakup, or some person did not want me. Mm-hmm. And I desperately wanted to feel wanted and feminine and mature, because I felt small. I felt young. I was also in another workplace that made me feel kind of small. And I was like, I felt like I wasn't a woman. And I wanted to feel, I felt like a girl. I was having girlish feelings of pain and disappointment and rejection. And I was like, I don't want to feel this anymore. Wow. And instead of thinking of like, because again, I was 20, 21, 22. Instead of thinking of it like, oh, there's some wounds here that a material's not going to help. Spraying that on my wrist did not help. I still was carrying those. I just smelt slightly better, I guess. Yeah. And I was like, I said, well, would you look at that, love? And I was like, yeah, wow, I'm still sad. No, I think it also helped me understand like the difference between self-care and like really self-attention and self-love and self-acceptance. Like self-care can be like, I'm just gonna have a day, just do the face masks, really like drink a lot of water and like really feel soft and feminine, which is beautiful. And I love doing that to this day. However, if you're not doing like the deep work of whether that's therapy or reading books that will expand you or doing things that are really showing up for yourself, it just won't stick. And that's the thing about manifesting. I think that's why people have dreams about what they want. It's so they can create the version of themselves that they are destined to be, that God intended them to be, that they want to be. And not to get too much into just God. I think God, universe, source energy, whatever you want to say, it's for something greater. And that's why dreaming is so important. So we can become this better version of ourselves. But our subconscious, going back to that, wants to definitely keep us not there, because that is dangerous. That's unknown.
It's challenging everything.
And like, I'm like, the subconscious is looking at the file cabinet and they're like, well, we don't know what that looks like. And like, that doesn't look safe.
Orange files. You're trying to bring in this purple one.
Purple. They said, who that?
It's not working.
Who's going to do that? And like, all we know is this. So if you're trying to be in a loving relationship, all we know is trauma. So like, what are we supposed to do with that? Yeah. And like, that's the interesting thing about, I literally don't think this, I don't know if this helped the person who asked this question. I don't know if this did anything for them. I think they just said, I want this job, girl. I'm trying to get paid more, that's all.
They need to know all of the thoughts and feelings and things that go into
maybe
it
one
too.
method and one question I would ask the person for why they want what they want. So they want the better job, their dream job. Yeah. Why is it your dream? Yeah. Is it because it pays more? And that means you want more money. Why do you want more money? Do you want more money because you want to be financially stable, or you want stability maybe that you didn't have before growing up, and you desperately want stability, or you really, really want stability? Is it external, as in you want to flex on other people who've put you down? Because I think that's a really common one for why we want things a lot of times, is to flex on people. And
a lot of the time,
to show up the people who hurt us.
But so with manifestation then, does it really need to be things that you need in your life? Even like you just mentioned, right? I need this job. I want more money. But, you know, being financially stable, that's a need for me. That's a need for me and my future family versus, well, I want to buy a car and I want everybody to see it. So when you're manifesting, can it be things that you just want? Or does it really need to be featured on things that and focused on things that you need to help you grow? I'm always very interested in that, because whenever I'm manifesting, it's usually things that I want.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's things that maybe aren't meant for me, and I'm romantic relationships, or you can even use a job in this sense. You might be manifesting your dream job, and then you get into it and you are working crazy hours. Your boss is toxic, cursing you out all the time, and you are just an anxious wreck. And then you think to yourself, damn, I really thought this is something that I wanted, but it's definitely not something that I need at this point. So is it important with manifestation for people to be open to both wants and needs? Should only be focused on those needs though? What does that look like too in terms of manifestation? I've always been interested in that because it is a very much like, I want, but sometimes it's not meant for you, the things that you want.
I think the journey that you have to go on to get the things and to manifest and attract the things is the work. You know, like I think in order to get that job, you might have to expand your skill set. You might have to do different things to make you a different person to have that job. And that is good. And also it'll tell you whether you want it or not. Because if you can't cut it, then maybe it really wasn't for you. And it really just directed you to, oh, you don't like your current job. You need to leave. But it might not be that thing, because humans are so finite. We don't see the grand picture. We can't. We only have I think when we really ground down, I think we can probably get ideas. But like I look at this and I go, oh, I want that. I want that. So badly. And then it's like all these other elements are falling into place that would allow me to really appreciate that, or to have something even better. It's always like also something better. I've also noticed is like every time I'm like, oh, this is, and I fixate on it, it ends up being something like very different, but so much more better.
That's like good for you.
So much more better. Yeah. But
so
like,
much more better.
So much more better. But do you know how when you're literally like, oh my God, thank God I didn't get that.
Yeah. Oh, all
you know
the
what
time.
I mean? You're like, oh my gosh, thank God that didn't work out. And I was like, I was going to give a kidney to have that. And now, oh my gosh, thank God I didn't get that.
I want that so far away from me on the other side of the fucking ocean at that point.
Right. But also I don't think it's bad to just like want things, because it's just, again, it giving you all nudges about who you are, why you want something. And it's sometimes you don't have to psychoanalyze why you want something. But I think what helps though is if you understand why you want something, so you can detach from that. So you don't have to be so obsessed with it. You could be like, and then you'll find other ways at which you can get it. So for example, I used to be like, okay, I love, like, you know, I fly a lot, obviously, and I manifest like getting upgraded to first class.
Let's do it.
Happens like sometimes actually, but I just like, I was like on my vision board for 2024. I was like Delta 1. And like all this stuff. And I was like,
looking at all the poor people going to the back.
Literally, I was like, I want to lay down. And then I realized, I looked at like those kind of ones, and it was exciting. I still liked it. I still love it. And I still want it. And I still will take it. And then when it comes
to y'all know.
Yeah, just so you know, I'm not too bad. Like I'm not better than that. I want it. I want it still. But I realized, I was like, oh, I want luxury, and I want comfort, and I want to feel safe, and I want to feel valued for the woman that I am, and the value that I bring. And I want that to be reflected to me in where I sit on a plane, which makes more sense. So when I look at it that way, I'm like, oh, well, because I'm a valued woman, well, then I'm going to do this now. Or because I'm a high value woman who deserves that seat in the front of the plane, I am going to show up for myself in a very beautiful way, in a very diligent way. I'm going to continue to do things that make me feel good, like the high value woman that I feel, or that I want to feel like. And that was helpful, because then I still want it, but I know why I want it. And I start building all these other elements in my life to reflect that. So it's not just, oh yeah, I got random seat in the front. No, I also have this job that I've attracted and these other things that I've done. And I also hold myself and carry myself in a way that is first class.
I love that.
Do you know what I mean? Like that's the difference, I think. Because I'm like, again, I still want that. I want all of it and then some. But I want the person who steps into it. I want that girl. And like, and then you end up, because then if you're like, I just want to get it, then you just like, you know, fine, put it on your card and rack up a $3,000 charge then. If that's what you really want, just go ahead and do it. And then you do it. And you're like,
looking at that charge on Monday, like,
yeah, dang, I'm here.
Why did
I arrived and now I got $3,000 on my Amex for no reason. Because I didn't do the work. I didn't actually do the investigation of like why I want to feel like that. You know what I mean?
The why is so
it's like we're all just like working on our egos. I feel it. Like we're all like ego driven people.
Yes.
And that's fine. The ego is important for a lot of reasons. But for the most part, it's like, no, like pause.
Let's like why really ask do you ourselves want it?
About like, that. I think the biggest one is relationships too. I think relationships are the best portal to change because like they just affect us so much, our relationships. Mm-hmm. You know, like a job and having a drive for a job is also very important and fun, but like relationships like kind of rip you apart and they kind of just really show you the most of yourself, your closest, especially with your closest people.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, I've always wanted this like really like loving romantic relationship. But at the same time, it is like, well, who do you have to be to create a secure, intimate relationship with someone at which you can do these things? And it wasn't until recently that I was like, in the past couple of years, where I was like, oh my gosh,
wow,
a secure person, not an avoidant person.
Yeah.
She's the one that's going to be experiencing those things.
Yeah.
It's not the girl that don't text back. It's not the girl who runs.
Playing like, games and they like say their feelings and you're out the door.
Do you know what I mean? I was like, oh, I was ready for filth. And then I realized, so then I was like, well, why do I want this so badly? Like, why do I yearn for this? And I finally like through, again, therapy, long conversations with friends, a lot of reflection and solitude and just talking to myself and my inner child. It was because like this means I am stable with a person and a partner. And I didn't grow up having stability in that way.
Yep.
I didn't realize until recently that was the reason why I'm like, a partner, a secure, stable relationship at which you can build a legacy.
Yes.
That's the end of the day. That's what I've been wanting. Yeah. And I was like, why doesn't it work out for this person? Why didn't it work out with this person? Why is it? And it was because it was not aligned. That, you know what I mean? And now it's so nice to have this understanding because that's how I look at relationships now. I look at it and I can I don't judge people, but I can quickly figure out like, because I have such an accurate vision of what I want now, I'm now like, oh, well, this is not that.
Yeah.
Or this could be that.
Yeah.
And this is giving, and it's so different than just like, he makes me giggle. And like, we share like a lot of like wonderful memories and we cook together, we watch movies together. And he is just someone that's there for me when I get home. Like, that's good. And I do want that. But if it's not with that stable foundation of like aligned values and commitment and very, very like clear commitment to one another.
Yeah.
I don't want it. I can't handle it. I don't want to touch it unless it's not that for me right now, because it just will cause me a lot of heartache and it'll feel like I'm betraying my inner child in a lot of ways.
100%.
And that took me so long to get here to the point where I'm like, oh, this is why. But I wouldn't know that had I not manifested. Like, I was literally, I was under that New Year's table eating them grapes.
Wet underwear grapes.
I said, God, give me a one. Like, no. But now it's like, oh, wow.
Yeah. The why is so important. And I never really thought about that within manifestation, because me looking back, and I'm excited to hear more about like techniques and how people can go about it. But with the why too is really scary, because that's where I feel like a lot of that negative self-talk can come up, right? Okay, I want this and this and this in a relationship. Why do you want that? Well, this. Well, am I deserving of that? I say I want all these qualities of person, but I'm not doing that. I'm not doing these things. How can someone, when they're manifesting, especially an anxious person like me, who that negative self-talk is constantly in my head as a perfectionist, how can you limit that when you're manifesting? Negative self-talk is one of those things. I was listening to a podcast where unfortunately it's never going to go fully 100% away. You might have like the best week of your life. You're feeling freaking confident. And then as women, you're about to get your period and shit, half that spiraling for an entire week. So how can you allow negative self-talk to be there, because it's going to happen, while still manifesting and knowing that you deserve some of these things, especially the needs and the why behind what we just talked about as well? Or does it just come up and there's like different things that you like to do when negative self-talk comes up when you're manifesting? They're like, okay, I like to do this breathing exercise. I like to think about this. Because negative self-talk, my first episode we did this season, it's all about toxic positivity. It's good to have emotions and things that don't feel really good to you, but negative self-talk obviously is not healthy. It's not going to go away though. So I'm interested to hear how that looks like within manifestation and what that has maybe looked like for you too.
Yeah. I think, because again, it never goes away, does it?
Mm-mm.
It's just everything. I think the biggest thing, again, when we look at just in the lens of manifesting who you are supposed to be, I think a big part of that is, yes, self-love, but even bigger is self-acceptance. Like genuinely accepting every single contradictory, grotesque, even though I don't think anyone has a grotesque part, but like horrendous, shameful, cringy, every horrible thought you've ever had, every mean thing you've ever said, allowing that to coexist with the best parts of you, the things that you adore about yourself, the things that you're so proud to know about yourself and to have about yourself, and allowing all of that to coexist so you can have an underlying status, or like homeostasis. What's the word where it's like your baseline or something of peace? Yeah, because that's it. Like I used to want to just always be happy, which is toxic, and not wanting to be negative self-talking and stuff like that, and just push it away and not. And just bypass
just
everything else.
Just like distract yourself, which is the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, and just bypass all of it, because the negative self-talk shows me that I won't get my dreams if you're thinking badly. And it's like, no, allowing all of that to coexist, the contradictory parts. Elizabeth Gilbert said it really well in a quote of the most peaceful people are the ones that allow all the versions of themselves to coexist. Because when you radically accept yourself, that negative self-talk doesn't hit as much. When I say, God, I'm worthless sometimes. But I have this overriding acceptance that I am very worthy. And sometimes I talk shit to myself. And I don't love that I do it, but I'm getting better every time. And like one of the best affirmations that I think you can say isn't I love myself. It is I am who I am, and that is enough. That's it. I am who I am, and that is enough. If I had one rule to put on like every single person in this world, that would be it. Because I think that would solve so many issues of like, you are who you are. You is who you is. You wouldn't want to change yourself because you are who you are, and that's enough. And so that negative self-talk might get diminished because you're not having to duel at it and like resist it so much. You just allow it, and you're like, oh God. I know. Like I thought I was past that. You're right. Allow it to be there. It's and the emotion.
Shame, like so much shame. When that
it's the emotion of shame attached to the negative self-talk that ends up spiraling, because then we have emotions attached to it, and then I'm like, oh, now I feel bad, and now all this different. But it's like I used to I didn't realize how bad my self-talk was until I was like saying it out loud, being like, oh, you're so fucking stupid. Like saying that to myself when I like forgot something. You know what I mean? Like what? And then I think about, oh, would I say that to a 7-year-old? No, would not. And I'm still a 7-year-old in a lot of ways. So like I wouldn't say it to her. So I can't say it to me.
I remember you said that to me once. We had a conversation this past summer and you're like, would you say that to your 6-year-old self? And I
don't you
fucking lost it.
Literally, isn't it crazy? Yeah. Once you look at it that way, you're like, oh my God, I would go to jail if you said that to a 6-year-old.
Child services is immediately called.
I was like, why would I say that to myself? And then if you think about it that way, then it's like, oh, well, then you switch it out and you just say like, oh, I'm so silly. Like something light where, you're going to still slap yourself on the shoulder or on the wrist and stuff and say, dang it, I wish I did that better. But the way that you just like radically accept, could have done that better. And then you let it pass. That only comes with doing like a lot of self-work of like, I accept who I am. I accept this version. I will accept that I do this sometimes. Because that acceptance and that non-resistance to it, it'll stay. It will just be more flowy. It just will flow better. So I think that might be like, because again, breath work, therapy, going on walks, all these different things are therapeutic practices that I think are really helpful, especially when you're in a bad spot and you're in a bad place, headspace. But I think like the bigger work is like your self-concept and how you feel about yourself. Like you have to figure out,
has to start there.
How do I really feel about myself? How is that playing out in how I see the world? And like, how is that? Because then that's standing in the way of the manifestations and all the things. Because if you get the dream job, but you have this deep feeling of unworthiness, that dream job's not going to feel like a dream much longer. Never. You know, it won't.
As soon as you get it, it's like, oh,
as soon as you get it, you feel like half yourself, or you feel like you have to fight to keep it because you don't feel worthy of it. And then the more you fight to keep it is the more it gets harder. And then you're just in a cycle and you're like, dang, this isn't flowing and this isn't easy. And then you feel really bad because you're like, well, I thought I really want this. Do I even know myself? And then all that stuff. But it really comes down to like, how do you feel about yourself? Do you feel like why do you want the job? Do you feel worthy of the job? well, then if you feel worthy of it, if you truly feel worthy of it, manifesting should be easy. I don't like saying anything should be easy, but manifesting it will feel natural, and it will feel like a culmination of events that unfold, that bring you to the job. And that comes with trust too. I think the next big thing is like trusting that, like, hey, what's meant for me will. People love repeating this all the time on TikTok, like, it's meant for you, will never leave you. And it's like, that's true. It really is true.
Well, let's talk about that too, because I know a big part of that, and you just said it well, like, if you know this is meant for you, like, manifest it and then kind of let go afterwards. It is so easy for people, especially me. I want this, I want this, I want this. It doesn't come to me in a week. I'm like constantly thinking about it. And something that I've seen on TikTok and listening to podcasts and speaking with you, a big part of manifesting is letting go of that outcome. And that outcome may not be what you want it to be originally, but like you mentioned earlier, it might be way better for you down the road that you didn't get that thing or got it way later in life than you want it right now. Because we talk about all the time, instant gratification in our time period. People want things so quickly. And sometimes you really are not in a good place in your life that thing is going to actually do anything for you in a positive way if you get it right now. So let's talk about the importance of letting go when it comes to manifesting and just seeing where things kind of take you to. And do you struggle with the letting go part of it too? Because you manifest.
I know you're asking that for the audience, because you know I'll be
good. I gotta do my thing.
I'll be asking you so many questions. I said, is it here? I think that might be the biggest lesson of any lesson we all ever learn as humans is truly to like understand how much we don't have control of like anything. And the more you can vibe with that idea, the more you let go of the idea that like, I can control this. Because you can't. You can think it for sure, but then that's horrible because then it's all on you to make it happen. And that's so terrifying. Can you imagine like if we all just like switched our brains to literally be like, okay, I'm going to do my little part here, just like this much of the grand scheme of it. And then I'm just going to let whoever throw it up and make it happen. Which is how it is, and that's actually how it works. But it's so hard to do that because I think we do have this ego of like do, make happen, grab. And then like letting go ends up seems like it's passive or that we're not doing enough or like all these different things when really letting go just allows more to happen. Because if like you're looking only at this one thing, like this one thing that I want, this one thing that I need, this one thing here, you're missing like all of this tapestry of magic that is really necessary for the journey. And then it makes it longer, I would say. I mean, I don't know. This is all me waxing poetic, but like, I feel like the harder you tie on everything, it just ends up being so miserable. And you can't, like, letting go, unfortunately, is the easier part because then you have to radically accept you've done what you can. That's about it you can do.
And people hate being out of control.
You sent the application in for the job and you did a hell of a job. Hey, that's about it. Don't stalk the people. Don't stalk the HR team. Like, like
LinkedIn messaging.
Can you
at 1
imagine?
a.m.
And then you just sit there and like refresh your page for a week or something.
Like, and I've been there.
I've been there. Yeah. And every time you're like, wow, I hate this.
I just spent 2 hours in my inbox.
Then also forcing to let go is another thing that I think is annoying when people are just let go. I'm like, I want this very badly. That's very hard to just let go of it. So I think it's an ongoing process of just releasing or being like, I'm going to freak out about this and I am going to do everything I possibly can to control the scenario for a day. And then tomorrow I'm going to try a little better. I'm going to do it 2 hours less. Until later time passes because usually you don't really get what you want under those circumstances. Really, it doesn't. And then time passes and you like are forced to be like, well, I do have to do other things now. Like I do.
I do have to log into my Slack channel. I do 4 hours offline.
Other things in my life that I have to get to. And hopefully that will release your grip. And so you can allow the magic of what's supposed to happen.
That's what I'm interested because if you're a spiritual or religious person listening in today, so if you feel like the universe has a lot to do with where you're at in your life, or if you believe in God and feel like it has been a big part of your life and where you are at too, is manifestation really you taking that control and then that higher power coming in and finishing the work, or is everything connected? That's where I get a little confused. Like, is manifestation your way of being like, I want to take control of things. I'm putting so much into the universe's hand, God's hand. I want to be the one to, move forward with this. Or is it like, I'm going to say I want this thing. I'm throwing it up there. the rest will happen from whoever's listening. How does that work? How are they all connected? How is it all connected?
I like to think of it as like the divine is within me. So God's like within me. So it's not some sort of like big machine that I'm putting in an order into. It's like divine is in me. So if I have this dream or have this idea of how I see my life, it has to be put there by somebody. And I think it's a mixture of me and God or universe or whoever. And that feels true. And it feels, if it's the highest good, you know, like the relationship thing, or like not just Juicy Couture, but like actually like these things that are, because like also those ones, they go away because you'll get them, or they're just material. You'll realize, oh, I don't need this that much, or I have this other perfume. So those are very like temporary. But then the big ones, relationship, a purpose in your job, those are big things that I think are planted inside you by some beautiful loving, warm energy. That could be God, that could be universe, that could be whoever you want, Mother Nature, Mother Earth, whatever it is. Someone planted that in you, and if you have the courage to chase it, then the path will be open to you. And then, you know, we call it prayer, or you call it scripting or manifesting or whatever you call it. And then that intention that you put because of that energy or that idea that's been placed in your heart, that intention that you put starts to build to bring you to being the person to get it, I think.
Is that related then to intuition too, in terms of like,
totally.
I feel like this thing is meant for me. I've always felt it. I feel like, because I feel like we're very intuitive people. There have been times where I'm like, this is about to happen, or you'll say the same, and then it does. But I'm like, how much of that is me putting that out there that it's going to happen versus me just already knowing that this thing's going to happen? If that's me knowing I'm going to get this job, if that's me knowing this guy's about to ask me on a date, how can you tell the difference between intuitively something you feel versus manifesting and already putting it out there? Are they interlocked? Are they connected? I'm always interested between those two concepts too.
Nothing is this or that. It is all this beautiful tapestry. It's like there's a quote, I'm gonna like probably butcher it, but it was like, life isn't just happenstance and coincidences. It is a like meticulously charted path for you to evolve and to touch the lives of other people. And I think if we're really trying to be like our best selves, that's, I think, what we're all here for, to touch the lives of others and to evolve to be better people at every part. So if it does come in a way of an intuitive nudge, and then sometimes I have to be proven right that like my intuition is strong by this boy asking me out, it's probably not about the boy. It's probably about, I want her to strengthen her intuition. So when the big intuition of, hey, you should now take a year and make an investment and do this whole podcast in person. You know what I mean? Like that was you knew it. You knew intuitively that it was the time for you to do that. And that came from you trusting your intuition back from the small things when it was like, oh, I knew that was going to happen. Or I like knew they were going to text me and they did. And like all these things. And so sometimes I think, like, so I guess this does answer your question. It is connected, right? I feel like it has to be connected. I choose to believe that things are just always, it just makes you less lonely really too when you think something, because then things do happen that are tragic and devastating. And if that happens in a vacuum, that's very isolating to think that just could be your next thing that could happen. And that's why it's like, I think life is truly unfolding to bring us to who we're destined to be, who God intended us to be, who we want to be. And I think they show us that through items and wants and desires and relationships.
Gorgeous. And I love the image of the path. I'm like getting so emotional during this episode too, but that's so beautiful because you're right. Everything really is so connected. And I know we're coming up on time. So my last question for you is just, how can this person go about manifesting, techniques that you like to do, mindsets you like to be in? I recently was listening to this podcast where this neurosurgeon was talking about manifestation, and he mentioned, parasympathetic versus sympathetic nervous system. So parasympathetic, that relaxation, calm state, that heart mode, versus sympathetic, which is that fight or flight. And usually it's, you're in a better mindset to manifest when you're in that calm rest state, because you're not trying to fight for your life in whatever that way that looks like. And probably a lot harder to let go of control if you're in that sympathetic part too. So just last words of advice of how you like to go about manifesting and how this person can do that too.
Okay. The biggest thing I think is to impress your subconscious mind with the best ideas ever. So how you do that, you can listen to affirmation tapes. If you don't like to go in the mirror and say your things, I know it's like sometimes cringy for people, and I understand. But if you do mirror affirmations, I would say I am who I am, and that is enough 3 times in the mirror every day. That's all you got. You don't have to say I love you, I'm so perfect, I'm so beautiful. No, I would just say that in the mirror. But I would also like truly dedicate yourself to like creating better belief systems, and that is through self tapes. Like you literally are sleeping and you listen to like words, and you can put it so you don't hear yourself. So but you're just sleeping, and so you're not really doing that much work, and it's great. And then slowly but surely you'll feel that your subconscious is like, oh, people do really like me. And you'll notice that people smile at you more. Because that's what your belief system is now finding that. All your subconscious wants to do is find evidence that it's right. So if it has a really good belief system, like lucky people, the only reason why lucky people are lucky is because they believe that they are lucky. So they get luck. So they always look for luck.
That's so true.
So when they see $1, it isn't just, oh, weird, $1. It's like, oh, I'm just so lucky. You know what I mean? Other people just say, oh, it's $1 that you found on the floor. But a lucky person thinks, I am the luckiest person on earth. I just found $1.
I just got $1.
Yeah. And so that's the belief system. And then like, just be ready. And this is a good one to end on because this is just the experience. Be ready to just, when you are stepping in to that next version of yourself, a part of you has to die. That part of you that does not feel worthy, the part of you that has kept you safe, the part of you that you do identify with has to go. And it's brutal. It's brutal. You'll have moments where your subconscious truly is purging something because it's energy. The law of conservation is energy has to go somewhere. It can't be destroyed. So that energy is still inside you, and it needs to find a way to get out. And it's so uncomfortable. And it comes out in ways of like breakups, losing a job, getting sick, all these things. That's when they come out. And because that's when you're creating space for something truly new. You actually are. And it's energy. That's all it is. And it's painful because like it goes kind of, you have an internal conflict and it goes to war with yourself. Like every horrible thing that you've ever told yourself or someone's told you, every single fear you've ever had, every doubt you've ever had, every like negative thing you've ever said to yourself or others, every fear goes to battle with the therapy that you've been doing, the conversations with friends, the sessions that you cried and had a cathartic change. Those go to battle with one another, and it feels like you're truly dying because you're like, this is so uncomfortable. And a lot of people, that's when they stop and they're like, I don't want this. I'll stick to comfort. But that's not your dreams. Your dreams aren't, because your comfort, it's there to keep you safe until it suffocates you, until you're like, I'm uncomfortable. And until that comfort outweighs the comfort of not going for it, like you got to keep going. And it can be brutal, but it's also the most excruciatingly beautiful thing, and it's so worth it. And that's why we're here as humans, I think. I don't know. That's just my thoughts.
No, I love
but
it.
I would say just like just learn more about the subconscious mind and your beliefs about yourself. And then that, I think everything else will be curtains. You'll get all sorts of beautiful stuff.
That was beautiful, Mom.
I'm running over time. I'm sorry. I'm sweating.
That was so good. Thanks, you
babes.
so much. That was gorgeous. I feel like I'm taking so much from that episode, and thank you for sharing so much about yourself today. I know everybody appreciated hearing about your story and how manifestation has looked like in your life. Tell everyone where they can find you, where they can find your work, what you're looking for. This camera right here, let them know where you're at. Plug any social media so they can let you know and learn more about you and just follow you on your journey and everything that you're manifesting into your life too.
Oh, thanks, Jilly. Thanks for having me. You can find me on Instagram on Imani-Grace King. And then my website's imanigraceking.com. And then anything else is just Imani Grace King. So
I love it. Well, guys, follow Imani on all of her social media and her sites. And thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. I'm like low-key so emotional. I need to like get out of this chair before I break down in tears. But as always, guys, if you want to feature anything and you want your advice answered, feel free to fill out that Google form on my Instagram or TikTok at Unlicensed Advice. We will get it answered for you and have more amazing guests like Imani joining us every week. But I love you guys, and I'll see you next week.